My initial take would be it's a yes and no. There is a correlation between what happened in Kibra, and again, there is no correlation. On the one hand, and I am on record, this entire BBI thing started on the wrong footing. And the reason why we still have a lot of apathy and a lot of negativity coming from the public about the BBI is because up to now it remains extremely shrouded in secrecy. If it is indeed a national initiative, it should have been inclusive from its formation and even the discussions that have come up to this point. One of the key things you realize is there has been a lot of disquiet, especially in central Kenya, about the president and his deliberate refusal to meet up leaders and explain to them what this is all about and what role they should play in the grassroots to engage Mwananchi to be a part of this process, if indeed it is a national or an important process. The good thing is at least you can see in the dailies today that the president is planning to meet up these MPs almost 2 years after the BBI. But now about Kibra, one sad reality that I have pointed out before is that we were treated to too much theatrics that removed focus from the issues that the people of Kibra were seeking to get addressed, or the caliber of a leader that the people of Kibra deserved, and ended up with a piecing contest that actually exposed the caliber or the type of leadership we are projecting going towards 2022, whereby it is not about issues. You know, when we start discussing bedrooms and making that a national agenda, it is removing focus from what should be actually on the ground. And I'm on record, you remember, pointing out the media actually failed the people of Kibra because there were many candidates there. But you see, the focus was narrowed down to a contest between the former Prime Minister and the Deputy President, which in my view actually was a disservice to the people of Kibra. But now that is behind us. Going forward, in my view, it is too early for the former Prime Minister and his team to begin to think that what happened in Kibra is an indicator that Kenyans would be comfortable with the BBI. One of the key things you realize, this report was supposed to be out in May. Now we are actually mid-November, and we are still talking about a report that is coming up. And I don't think whether this report is a couple of thousands of pages. So it tells you that they already have been able to detect the public mood. And this coupled with even the sentiments expressed by the president the other day, wondering why Kenyans don't have money in their pockets. I've been saying this for forever. Just the fact that Kenyans are in agony, particularly emanating from the economic mismanagement that we have witnessed in the last 7 years. It doesn't matter how colorful the BBI is going to propose. Even if it proposes every household is going to be receiving a packet of milk every morning, Kenyans are going to vote that thing out. Until and unless the president intervenes and Kenyans begin to feel that the economy is putting money in the people's pockets and business begins to revive and people begin to get employment, believe you me, Kenyans are very dissatisfied with the performance of Jubilee so far.
That's an interesting point because that's where we're going actually. Honorable Midiwo, let me ask you this because first off, it was the fact that the president wasn't in the country, so the team couldn't hand this particular report to them. They wanted him to come back. Then some other sources started talking about the fact that the political environment and public sentiment wasn't for this particular report as of now. Now the PM says that now after the Kibra by-election, now comes the BBI. Was that what they're waiting for? When do you expect this BBI report? Do you think it will be tabled finally? Or will you wait for this for quite a while and not see the document at all?
Can I give you my honest opinion?
Yes, please.
I think all has not been good in the handshake circles as far as BBI is concerned. What Raila is doing is putting pressure so that it can be released.
So you feel that the president
And if I were the president, I would release that report. Remember, about 3 weeks ago, Central Kenya MPs did a collective press briefing saying one man, one vote, A, B, C, D. They were actually opposing what is rumored to be in the BBI. And you know, without saying it, you are the person who has tweeted and said we don't have good politicians. How can somebody be so right like that in the morning? Something is wrong with our country. Because the issue here, for some of us who sometimes sit on the sidelines to watch the mayhem being meted on Kenyans, especially the Kikuyus, the mere fact that they can't, during elections, I have been with those people in Kisumu where, how they are worried that people are going to cast their votes. It is silly of the MPs to go and say they want one man, one vote. We must discuss ourselves and get ourselves out of this conundrum.
So do you feel the president had second thoughts?
Yes, no, he's feeling pressure. The truth is, let us talk the truth. The president is feeling pressure. I also know that they are negotiating night and day to assuage the feelings of the people of Central Kenya and the rest of Kenyans. That must be married because there is fears. Let us just talk the truth about this thing. Because what is BBI? Building bridges. It means there are no bridges. You are building them. I have been on this show. I've been on other shows. And I've said there's no day you will build a bridge from Kiambu to Kisumu without going through Rift Valley. If you know a way of building it, you tell Kenyans. It is not possible. Let us all sit. The problem with Ruto, they are opposing. It is not that Ruto does not know what needs to be done. But Ruto wants the current scenario, and he is in this construction in his brain that the Kikuyu vote to him is a given. So anything that will disorganize that kind of distracts him on his path. And his path is too narrow. You see, what must happen with this BBI? Time is running out. The day I saw Aden Duale say that he supports parliamentary system of government, because I think that is actually the crux of the matter. The people of Central Kenya don't like that thing. But what they want to be changed is the formulas of distribution of wealth, and I'm with them in that thing. Because you cannot explain to Kenyans why Turkana gets more money than Kiambu. Those things will lead us to war. These things will lead us to war.
Right.
So what must happen now, Jeff? The president, please, release this thing. The difference between BBI and the one of Punguza Mzigo is that BBI is saying we shall debate it and come to a common document, because we must change these bad things that make us fight all the time. The mistake Uhuru and Raila made was to make the thing a two-man affair. And they have created this good meat. It is so good to eat that political meat. And the only person playing politics, albeit negative, is William Ruto. He's the only person doing it there. So he must be stopped.
Dennis, let me bring you into this as well and take you back a bit to the Kibra by-election, where we saw during the election there were some scuffles going on, some pockets of violence in different areas. Some of this even captured on video. We saw the press conferences after that with both camps accusing the other of the ones perpetrating this violence. The IBC hasn't given an audit on this particular violence. The police haven't spoken about these incidences as well. Accusations have been made as to that particular regard. Why the silence on an issue that everybody saw? Your take on that?
You see, Jeff, our Kenyan systems are systems that work by law and based on particular procedures. Both the police and IEBC will respond on an issue based on a formal complaint. Now, the problem with Kibra is that the candidates who ought to have complained don't seem to have a problem. They have congratulated each other, they have moved on. According to us, probably if you asked me if I was on a strict political setup, I will tell you those who were manipulated videos, they were not real, because the people who could have had the negative and adverse effect of any violence have not complained. So why are we seeing the complaints? It's on, TVs, on press conferences. Yet these leaders know that if you really have evidence that something was done that affected the polling, then you go to the relevant institutions which exist and launch your complaint, and then it shall be followed up procedurally. That has not happened, and that is why you will not likely to see the police taking step. It's more likely to, in fact, people are now lauding what happened in Kibra. Apart from what we saw, Boni Alwale carrying stones and a few people throwing stones.
But Didmas Baraza was also wrapped up, and now his hat
Yes.
is being worn by Junet Mohammed. It's been worn by Honorable Kaluma.
Jeff,
Anyone else other than Baraza?
one time, Junet Mohammed and a few others abused each other very seriously on air, and they were put all together in Pangani police station, and they were arrested. When they came out, they were greeting, shaking hands. Never trust politicians on some of the things, because I remember Junet Mohammed, Timothy Bosire, and Moses Kuria, and a few others, about
the
six.
Pangani Six.
The Pangani Six. They were, yes, they were in public on serious abuses, and they were put together there was in about 6 days of 1 week in custody. By the time they came out, they were friends. So when politicians abuse each other, it's really not an abuse. Sometimes they are praising each other in coded language,
Right.
and and the general public construe that my candidate has been abused. So really, I think Kenya should not read into that politics too much, because I've listened to what Boni Alwala has had to say, and if it was directly, aired. One of the people was carrying stones, and stones were being hauled onto his side. He keeps joking around it and saying he's a lawyer man. He cannot be chased around, and he watches by uncircumcised boys. I don't know how he learned that whoever was throwing was not circumcised. But according to him, for me, that is simply a joke, a political joke that people should simply take for it and not take it very seriously. If there was real violence, then I am very certain that the parties, even this other candidate, could not have accepted the results. They could have at least launched a formal complaint. That has not happened.
Okay. Honorable Midiwo, you had something to add on that particular issue?
Because I think what he's saying needs to be a bit clarified. You know what politicians say people follow? When you are a politician, and like that Didman Baraza, he is a bit foolish, because every weekend he says, Raila Kanyage Bungoma Aone. Then he says, I'm coming to your bedroom. That attracts violence. He attracted his own violence. And in fact, I'm surprised he's alive. Boni Alwale, the things he says, I was with Boni Alwale 2 days ago in another show. In 2 minutes, he mentioned Raila's name 21 times. Then you will create people who love you to the core and people who hate you to the core. When you present yourself before them, choices have consequences. But I also wanted to say, how is it, Jeff, that in Kibra, only Jubilee MPs were being beaten? Not Jubilee voters, the MPs. Why were Ford Kenya voters not beaten? Why were ANC voters not beaten under the 23 under candidates? Even their MPs. I saw Musalia just walking very gently in Kibra. In fact, he was greeting everybody. Let me tell you why. This issue of money, only two issues here. Money and IEBC. Remember, it took ODM to go to court for IEBC to even produce a voter register. That is the primary role. Until today, IEBC has never opened the server. You're dealing with a rogue organization amidst us. But when the deputy president opens up a government house and converts it into a hotel where he's dishing money, the people of Kibra could never have made us more proud by rejecting money for dignity. And when you saw that violent, that Didman Baraza, it is rumored when he was being beaten, he was carrying 300,000 in change. I've heard it going around.
But that hadn't been confirmed.
No, I'm saying it's rumored. I know how to choose my word. I know I'm in the middle. I've been sued too many times for things I say. That one you can't get me with if you're smart. But even if he didn't have money, there were accusations of money. And days leading to the election date, the road to the DP's home, that should be a government. You can't distribute money. And you, being a deputy president, you know the law does not allow campaign of dishing out money. There's criminality in the way they behaved. Now they are scapegoating. If I were them, I would have done what Mutruma has advised. Shut up and move on, because they will be found with a lot of crime.
Right.
But the people, look at what is happening in Hong Kong, Lebanon, Chile. It's called citizens' action. It was not ODM MPs who beat them up. It is the people whose votes they were trying to bribe, to steal, the people whose dignity they were trying to steal. And I can tell you, any law and in every imagination around the world, when citizens are fed up with bad politicking, they take the law into their own hands. That is why we are saying, let us sit down and talk about the laws to govern us strictly going into the future.
Okay, and Ben, even as we look at that, Honorable Midiwo says what they need to do is shut up and actually look at the laws and move forward. But they're doing anything but keeping quiet. They had a press conference, and there were serious allegations that were made by even MP Shongwa talking about the fact that there's a meeting that happened in Karen,
Yes.
calling in the CS, the PS, and Raila on this particular one.
Yes.
This is coming from members of the ruling party who should actually have mechanisms to deal with this.
Absolutely,
But they're casting aspersions on the same government that they should be supporting. What is not going on right there? Is there smoke to this fire?
No, there is actually a fire to this smoke, and I would look at it that way, because one thing we have to agree, Jeff, all this that we are being treated to, and contrary to what Mheshimiwa is saying here, we are one of the most legislated countries on earth.
So it's not about a lack of law.
There is a law in this country for everything, including how I should be holding this pen. So the issue of legislation does not arise. What is the problem in this country, and Martin Luther King once pointed out, is it is impossible to legislate on morality. What we have is Kenyans of plain bad manners occupying important public offices, and they have no qualms at all displaying that bad manners at every small opportunity without feeling anything. And we must begin to dig back and understand where the rain started beating us. Mheshimiwa here will remember, we have continued to witness very ugly scenes from Parliament and from politicians. As Wakili here was pointing out, you saw cases of members of Parliament even insulting each other. When they are detained in a police cell, they come out shaking hands and pretend that nothing happened. Then we also have to go back to a mistake that we made as a country. When we promulgated the 2010 Constitution, the first thing that must have happened was an immediate election. We killed that opportunity. I think Mheshimiwa, you were in Parliament that time. That's when we lost it, and it is going to take us a very long time to recover, because Chapter 6 was designed to be able to completely eliminate these characters of no character from all positions of leadership. Unfortunately, we no longer have Chapter 6. What we have serving as the Leadership and Integrity Act is something that was cobbled up by criminals who have found opportunities to serve in political leadership, and they had to find all manner of convenience so that they will never get caught. What we have is now, or what we are witnessing, is individuals who have gone rogue, who have got no axis of accountability to anybody, and that gives them an opportunity to do what they do. I wanted to mention something that you asked Dennis in regard to this culture of violence. I feel bad when I see people insisting that, or people who are pretending now to cry foul when they were greeted with a few ngotos and rungus in Kibra. These are the same people who had no qualms at all when government agencies were meting out violence on Kenyans in 2013 and in 2017, and even between 2013 and 2017 during many mandamanos and all that. As Kenyans, we must rise to a point whereby we have to agree. It doesn't matter where the violence comes from. It must be completely intolerable. It is funny that now people like Honorable Junet and some of the ODM members are the ones now are extremely comfortable with this, and they were complaining and making a lot of noise just a year and a half ago. This displays or demonstrates a lot of dishonesty in our political leadership. But I have taken time to study where this problem emanates. And all this, in my view, stops at nobody else apart from Dr. Fred Matiang'i. There are things that Kenyans must begin to converse about right now, especially after the incident we witnessed at the Jomo Kenyatta University 2 days ago. There is unprecedented increase in violence, especially from security agencies since Dr. Matiang'i took office. And in my view, these individuals are taking the cue from the CS himself, who is on record blatantly ignoring and disregarding court orders, who has continued to operate with impunity and as a law unto himself, even at times being arrogant and even calling out or calling the bluff of parliamentarians where he's supposed to be accountable. So there's a statistic we were reading the other day, whereby the cases of police officers involved in criminal activities, particularly armed violence or armed robberies and that kind of criminal activities, increased from the year 2018 from 2017, an average of about 70 cases of police officers in crime to over 500 cases in the year 2018 under the CS. In my view, we must begin to focus on exactly where the problem is. Okay. Because unless we address it from that point, and unless these kinds of indecency are tolerated from the top ministry officials, we are going to have a long way to go. You remember last year we saw cases of police officers removing students from the University of Nairobi and clobbering them from libraries and all that. We saw the case of Maseno University. We have seen now the case of Jomo Kenyatta University and many others. And we remember the Karatina student who was killed by police officers. Unless this is tamed from the top officials of the ministry, believe me, we are going to see worse times ahead of us.
Let me bring Gabriel in on this very quickly as we go into the break. We've spoken about this time and time again. Chapter 6 of the Constitution is all about integrity and putting our leaders at a certain standard to be held. How do we effectively implement this? Because it's there. Right. We see the letter of it. Yes. The spirit is massively lacking.
We usually implement it later.
How do we make sure that it's actually carried out? Because it's not a lack of laws, as Ben has said. We know what should be done, but it's never done.
You know, we usually, these are some of the things that you laugh about. Because these are chapters that are very clear. Like chapter 6, it's a very clear chapter in our Constitution. The problem, and we need to keep asking this, why do we only realize it when there's a political score or there's a political settlement that you really want to, you know, there's a score that you want to bring out or set or something. The reason why I'm saying this, you've heard so many times a governor being taken to court. And they are told, no, your academic papers are not sitting pretty. Just the other day, Sonko was being hauled to EACC on that auspice of having not been or having not produced something when he was running. And all these agencies were there. He was cleared by the DCI. He was cleared by the EACC. He was cleared by the IEBC. And you start asking, who should actually be the gatekeeper to ensure that somebody satisfies these requirements? And if somebody does play with the system, how do you end up getting, albeit the fact that they've been elected, is there not an option that you may actually repossess and declare that seat vacant? That is one. Secondly, is me and you, Jeff. We are now the people on the ground. It is up to us to ensure that we censor our leaders well enough that we do not have these embarrassments in the near future. How do we do this? It is us understanding who this politician is. Where did, I mean, if the requirement is you must have a certain document or a certain academic qualifications, where are they? They must satisfy those with us, the voter, before we allow them to go to the next stage. Because it becomes a little bit crazy. And this is not being cynical. These are actually things or issues that are being prosecuted in court today. So it keeps happening. Why is this chapter not being enforced? What do we do? Because right now we are talking about running to get other laws and regulations into play. Yet we've not satisfied this chapter 6. Why do we keep getting it wrong? And finally, let me just, amplify a little bit of what Ben has said. And Jeff, this is something we should not joke about. Violence, meted out at any point, whether it's the school children that we saw at JKUAT, or whether it's somebody out there in Kibra saying, that, or what we saw, that Arokosand, we also again have those agencies. We have the DCI, there are all these agencies that must look into it. I've heard people, what my good friend said, nobody has reported. Sometimes nobody needs to report. There's that preemptive element that we need to be on guard. What if somebody is murdered? Who will report? The person who has been murdered? No, sometimes you need to take that preemptive notion and saying, this area looks troublesome. And you put the apparatus in play so that you can ensure that what you foresee does not actually happen. That's why we send police out. That's why we have riot police in stadiums.
Actually, before you come back on that.
In stadiums.
Yes.
In stadiums. We have riot police. Why? Nobody has thrown a rock. Right?
To preempt
exactly. That. But you preempt those events. The issue of playing with violence as we head to 2022 does not sit well with me and should not augur well with any Kenyan. You know why? We have continued playing around what Johansen Kriegler warned us about. Currently, what we should be talking about is how IEBC is seated. Jeff, we are only 20 months removed from the next general election.
Let's take a break and we'll come back on that right here, of course, because it's a keen issue. But also, even to talk about that, the Nairobi summit of the ICPD coming to an end today, lots of friction between the summit organizers, the delegates there, and the church as well. And the government also coming into this particular issue, and it's all about morality and culture and where this stands in the debate as far as the Nairobi summit is concerned. We'll talk about that and plenty more after the break.